Today I'm gonna show you how I turned this simple melody into this orchestral arrangement. First I play through the entire piece, after that I will go through every single section, explain what every instrument is doing, and after that I am going to talk a little bit about my process, so you can get the idea how to start things like this. Alright, in the case of this track I didn't actually start with the melody, I started with the main rhythm, like this. As you can hear from the get-go, I was aiming for this dramatic vibe. After this core rhythm was ready, I wanted to introduce a secondary rhythm that would fill the spaces between the notes right here. And I landed on this. As you can hear, it's actually the same thing, but moved a little bit. And together they are creating this uninterrupted rhythm pattern. Next thing, it was time to split it between the strings. This is violin 1, here is the viola with the secondary rhythm, here's the double bass with the pizzicatos, and instead of violin 2 I use a whole string ensemble that serves as an additional layer to everything. This way it feels like we have many more string players. Together the string section sounds like this. And in the final part I also split viola into the VZ an octave higher and added another string ensemble. Together with the melody, cello is also providing additional layer, this baroque pizzicato highlighted by this orange midi to add even more layers to the texture. And of course they play before the main theme kicks in. Together with the secondary string ensemble. As you can hear, the ensemble is panned to the left and the cello pizzicatos are panned to the right to create as big of a stereo field in the piece as possible. One other thing I also added to support the core rhythm was drums, in this case bass drum and snare. As the song develops, they also go a little bit harder. And at the end I also introduced timpani to give them even more power. When the rhythm was done for all of the strings, it was time to create two melodies. The one on the left is the intro, the one on the right is the main theme. In this pattern I added the ghost notes so you can clearly see how the melodies are structured. As you can see in the case of both these melodies, I am just moving through the notes of the scale, in this case all white keys on the piano. One thing you can also notice is I am trying to stick these core fundamental tones of the melody to the chords, so they flow together nicely. And I'm using the other notes of the scale to ease the transition between the fundamental tones of the melody. This is how both melodies work together with the chords. It doesn't work as well with the piano as it does with the final result, but you get the point. For the first melody in the intro I chose very popular and very effective doubling between French horn and clarinet. You can hear how they flow through each other very well and resonate together in a really pleasant manner. This is a very cool doubling, I highly recommend it. The main theme is of course carried by the cello, that is doubled by clarinet, bassoon, French horn, and in the later part also 3 flutes and additional 4 horns, because I don't know when enough is enough, I guess. Cello is of course the dominant instrument, so this is how the rest of the doublings sound without the cello. And in the later part when they go overboard. Meanwhile, I also introduced a little bit of progression in the core rhythm by the addition of the brass. First I added trumpet and tuba. And in the finale there is also bass trombone to add a lot more oomph to the brass, and trumpet is going an octave higher. As you can see by the MIDI, I wrote full chords with the trumpet, so in this case we actually have 4 players, everyone is playing their respective part, and of course since the core rhythm doesn't really provide much breathing space, this could also be arranged in a way where some parts are being played by different players. For example like this, when the first and second trumpet are swapping with each other playing the main rhythm, so they have enough time to breathe. Together with the brass I also added flute and piccolo to give everything an additional layer, additional texture. I wrote them in a way where we have 2 flute players and 2 piccolo players playing the rhythm, and every half of the bar they are exchanging with one another. Piccolo in its lowest register is very similar to the flute in its high register, so they flow through each other really nicely. And together with the brass. Now together with drums. And now everything together with the strings. And right here you can really hear the richness of the sound. When you look at this piece like this in sections and also like this on the piano roll, you can really quickly come to the conclusion that this arrangement is actually very simple. I am mostly just layering stuff, repeating stuff, especially when it comes to the core rhythm. The only thing you actually require is to understand the role of every instrument in the orchestra. Now that I think about it, maybe there is actually one more thing to it. You also need to understand the range of those instruments. As you just heard, I wrote the melodies in the lower register. So even together, the cello, horn, bassoon, clarinet might have a very tough time getting through the whole orchestra, especially when you have that many instruments like 4 trumpets, trombone, tuba, full string section. It might be very hard for those instruments to stick out and to be actually audible. When we go to the all MIDI section real quick, you can see that I try to leave as much space in the range of those instruments as possible to give them place to breathe. Of course, you can see the notes of the rhythm right here, but these are just the MIDI information. Because I only have very small MIDI controller with only 26 keys, I tend to transpose some of my instruments so they can play in a range that is comfortable to me. And I'm doing the exact same thing when it comes to different articulations. For example, I tend to move staccato notes an octave lower on a keyboard, so I can more easily play with the MIDI and also avoid some glitches that might be happening, because FL Studio really struggles when you play 2 different MIDI notes in the exact same spot in the exact same time. Sometimes it just plays only one, so I tend to move the other articulation an octave lower so I can prevent it. That is basically it when it comes to the entire arrangement. Of course, beneath we also have sub bass that is doubled with the double bass, and some white noise as always. If you survived this walkthrough, thank you as always. If you liked it, give the video a thumbs up and sub. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, check out this one on the screen. See ya!